Morning everyone, my name's Rachel from North Tyneside Council. I work on the Back to Work service and I'd like to welcome you all to our first ever Facebook Live session this morning. It's something new, we've never done this before, so we wanted to give it a go and just be able to reach out to as many of you as possible and share some top tips on certain topic areas. So the first thing that we're going to go through today is we're going to talk about social media and how you can use social media to support you in your job search. So what I want to cover with you this morning is some social media platforms. So let's look at some of the key ones that are out there. I also want to cover some social media statistics with you, just to let you know how prevalent social media is today and also how we can use it effectively for our job search. I want to focus on how to make your profile stand out and how to help you establish your brand as either an individual or somebody who's looking to move careers and move into a new role. I want to focus on active versus passive social media usage as well. And there's a really big difference between the two. And I want to make sure that you're using social media as actively as you possibly can to make sure you get yourself noticed. And I also want to support you in making sure you can use social media effectively for your job search. Now, with Facebook Live sessions, what you'll see is you've got the ability to comment. So if you want to make a comment, if you want to ask me a question, just please feel free to add that to the comment box. I won't miss any questions because we've got some time booked at the end of the session to go through those. But if I don't manage to get through all of the questions, I'll make sure I post them on this page for you to review. And finally, what I want to do with you is go through some top tips on getting the best out of social media, whatever platform you decide to use. So when we think about social media, there's four key platforms that I want to get you to use. The first one is LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is quite a new platform. It's been around for about 10 years or so, but it's meant to be a professional social network. So this is where you would find professional roles and you can network with professionals that are looking for the same kind of work as you. And LinkedIn is the network that's preferred by most employers. So when employers are going to check up on you before they invite you for interview, this is where they'll look to check that your profile matches the CV that you've sent through to them. LinkedIn is a large network and it's used across the globe, and there's hundreds of thousands of people actually on LinkedIn. And it's an ability for you to connect with each other, participate in groups, and interact with each other over a digital platform. So LinkedIn is the first thing that we're going to explore a little bit as this session moves on this morning. The second one is Twitter. So I'm not sure if you're on Twitter. I know I use Twitter all of the time. And it's a free social networking and microblogging service. So with Twitter, it enables users to send and read messages, and they're known as tweets. And the only thing with Twitter is you need to be posting really short tweets to get yourself noticed, and that you have to post less than 140 characters for your tweet. And that would be displayed on the author's profile page and delivered to the author's subscribers, who are known as followers. The next one that I want to explore with you in more detail is Facebook. And most of the population is on Facebook nowadays. And again, that is a social networking site that is owned by Facebook Incorporated. And users can add friends, send them messages, and they can update personal profiles to notify friends. And I think a lot of us use that to share pictures of our dogs at home, what we've had for lunch, but Facebook is so much more important than that. And you can actually use it to really support you in your job search. You can join groups within Facebook organised by a location, by a profession, by a workplace, school or college, or any other interests. And that is probably the most commonly used social media platform today. And finally, Instagram as well. So Instagram is quite similar to Facebook, being that it's owned by Facebook Incorporated. But I think the key difference with Instagram is it's a photo and video sharing service. So you can share short videos, short photos to tell people what you've been up to. So those are the four key social media platforms that I want to give you some hints and tips to make sure you're using them as effectively as you possibly can. And when we think about social media, we use it all of the time. We might share photos of ourselves, we might share our hobbies and our interests. We might share with people where we've been on holiday, what we've had for our lunch. But social media is so much more than those things that we've just mentioned there. And if you use social media effectively, it can really support you in establishing your brand and also supporting you in your job search as well. And I've talked about social media, telling you that it's really prevalent nowadays. So let's look at some statistics that'll back that up then. So there's almost 3.5 billion global social media users. 45% of the world's entire population is using social media. And in the UK alone, there's more than 45 million social media users. And 39 million people use social media on their tablet or on their mobile phone. And finally, the average user will spend close to 1 hour and 50 minutes a day on a variety of social media networks. And if you think about the amount of people that are using social media, it's so much more than just connecting with people and sharing top tips with people and sharing videos. If you use it effectively, it can really establish your brand and really support you with your job search moving forward. And as I mentioned, it is so much more than just sharing those pictures of you and the dog at home, what you had for your lunch or where you're going on holiday. It's a really simple way to network with other professionals, either people who are looking for the same kind of work as you are or have got the same interests and hobbies that you have. It's a really good platform to share all of your achievements, your skills and your abilities. And you can see why that's really important if you are looking for work. You can actually publicise yourself to millions of people who are either looking for staff or who are looking for training opportunities. You can connect with others. So whether that's in your local area or whether that is around the globe, you can connect with others, share best practice and learn things from each other. You can follow companies. So you might be thinking there's companies that you'd love to work for in the future and you're not sure if they're hiring. Why don't you follow them on social media so you can see any updates that company shares on social media? And it's also a really great place to let recruiters find you. So instead of you doing all of the job search all of the time, let the recruiters actually find you and let them think about what are your skills, what can you bring to an employer, and let them match you to a suitable opportunity that they may have. And as well, it's great to see vacancies that aren't advertised through the usual channels. So normally when we're looking for work, we will actually be looking on Indeed or various other job search websites, but there's so many vacancies that aren't actually advertised through those usual channels. And it's really important that you're networking, you're seeing what's happening in the local area, and it'll help you access those opportunities that aren't advertised through the normal channels. So let's now focus on one of those 4 social media platforms that I want to talk to you about. And one that I'm really passionate about and I use a lot with my job seekers and I use a lot in my personal life is LinkedIn. So as we mentioned there, LinkedIn is a business-orientated network with 27 million UK members. And it provides opportunities to network with professionals from different sectors around the world. And it's really great so you can see what's actually going on in the world of work. You can connect with individuals, with groups or with companies online. And as I mentioned there, it's a great way of accessing the job market that's not advertised. So identifying those vacancies before they're actually advertised on Indeed or any other website. Employers often use this as a way to search potential candidates prior to interview. So what an employer might do is they receive your CV, they will check if you've got a social media footprint. And what they will be looking for is what's written on your CV, is that actually true and is that factual? And they will cross-check that against LinkedIn to see if it is really you and to see if those skills and those attitudes and those behaviours that you've mentioned on your CV, to see if they actually match the person that's sitting in front of them. And as I mentioned, recruiters use LinkedIn as well. So recruiters will be working with an organisation and recruiting for a certain role. They will use LinkedIn to identify potential applicants that they can contact and get them involved with the organisation they're recruiting for. And with LinkedIn, the most important thing that you can do on LinkedIn is having a really strong profile. And that is really important to get you noticed on LinkedIn. Now, there's quite a few different parts to getting yourself noticed on LinkedIn. So what I've done is I've actually took some screenshots of my own LinkedIn profile, and I'm going to talk you through some of the key elements that you can apply yourself to make sure you've got a great LinkedIn profile. So first of all, when you log into LinkedIn and you are starting to make a profile, you'll see this banner runs along the top of the screen every time you log in. You've got the search button on the left-hand side, and that's where you can search for people, you can search for companies, or you can search for topics. So for example, if you're particularly interested in manufacturing work, you can type manufacturing in that search box, and then you can then filter your search from that, okay? And when you look to the right of the screen, there's various tabs that you can dip in and out of depending on what you're looking for. You've got the home tab, which is where you will see the posts that have happened during that day that you're connected with. You'll also see your network, which is a list of contacts that you've made during your time setting up this profile. And this is where you'll see any notifications of somebody wanting to follow you on LinkedIn as well. So you can really manage who actually views you on LinkedIn, and then you can contact them to get a bit more information about them. There's also a job search functionality on LinkedIn as well, and you can see the little briefcase just in the middle of the screen there. What you can do is go into LinkedIn and you can set the parameters in which you want to do your job search for, and you can have regular notifications appear in your mailbox of any jobs that might be relevant to you. But you can also just do a general search for a production operative, for example. The next bit you've got a messaging function as well. So it's a bit like Facebook Messenger, where you can connect on a one-to-one basis offline of your standard LinkedIn profile. And recruiters will use this functionality quite a bit to network with you behind the scenes, as opposed to putting a post on your live LinkedIn page. You've also got a notification section as well. So this is where if you're following a company and they make a post, you will see notifications from that organisation there. And finally, the last one that I want you to focus on is me. And that's where you would find information about your profile, your skills and your achievements that you want to showcase to an employer, to a training provider, or to others within your network. What you can see on the screen now is, as I mentioned, I've done a screenshot of my own LinkedIn profile just to talk you through a few bits of the functionality. And as I mentioned, having a really strong profile is really important to get you noticed on LinkedIn and to get your brand out there. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is, if you look at the top left-hand corner, you can see a red circle that's flashing. What you can actually do is you can put a banner at the top of your LinkedIn profile. So what you can see there is I've got, an advertising banner for the Back to Work service that I'm part of. And it just adds a little bit of colour to your profile, just to make sure you're doing everything you possibly can to get noticed. So that banner along there, you can change that whenever you see fit. But I recommend obviously keeping that really professional. Don't be putting on there pictures of your favourite football team or anything like that. Make sure it's professional, okay? The next bit you can see flashing on the screen is there's a little pencil on the right-hand side. And that's how you would go into your LinkedIn profile to add any details or any updates about yourself. So that's where you can go in and you can put in your skills, your achievements, and your employment history, for example. And one key tip is, go into LinkedIn regularly and check your profile and make sure all of your details are up to date. Because if you're using it as a tool to promote yourself, you need to make sure that people can contact you. So go in there on a regular basis and just make sure your details are all up to date. The next bit that you can see flashing is my lovely face. So to kind of complete your LinkedIn profile, it's really important that you have a strong headshot there. So what you can see on mine is there's not a lot going on in the background. There's not a lot of personal stuff in the background. So I haven't took that picture sitting at home with the pictures of my family behind me, because I don't want that on my professional profile. So when you have a headshot, make sure it is a headshot, and make sure you don't play around with the filters to try and make yourself more beautiful. Just make sure it's a really clear image that really depicts you as an individual, okay? And the last bit that you can see flashing is the key bit of setting up your profile on LinkedIn. And this is your profile section. And within here, this is where you can start to explain to an employer all of the great things about you. So the first bit, there's an introduction section, and this is where you can let recruiters and employers know that you're actually looking for work. You've then got an about section, which again, based on what I've said there, that's a little bit about your employment history, what makes you tick, what your achievements are. You've then got the featured section, which is any key areas that you want a recruiter to look at about you. So it could be something that you're really proud of. It might be an educational achievement. It might be you've had a particular success at work. So that featured section is really important to highlight something really great about yourself. Your background section, again, that goes into more detail about the jobs that you've done and the duties that you've undertaken in that role or in that training environment. Your skills section is quite a useful tool to use. You can obviously type in the skills and put in your educational achievements there, but there's a variety of skills assessments that you can complete that really show that you're particularly competent at using Microsoft Excel, at using social media. There's a lot of assessments in there, and again, those can add a little bit of colour to your LinkedIn profile. And then the last few bits, it just kind of sums up everything in one go. You've got your accomplishments there. So again, you can expand on some of those key selling points that you've got as an individual. You can tell them a little bit more about you as a person. And you've also got an option there to notify them if you speak any other languages apart from your mother tongue. So once you've done those 4 things that I've kind of highlighted there, you will have a really strong LinkedIn profile. And the stronger the profile you have, the more posts you actually see on LinkedIn. So it's really important that you fill this out to the best of your knowledge and actually cover as many of those topics as possible, because it will unlock other features on LinkedIn for you. And if we look at just kind of going into the body of one of those sections, you can see I've got my lovely photo there, I've got my lovely banner along the top. And having a headline about yourself is really important as well. And again, that gives a little bit more information to a recruiter who's looking to see if you're a good fit for an employer. And that headline, if we look at my headline, I've got bringing people and jobs together by offering tailored employability support while supporting businesses to recruit and retain. So that headline, again, is just a 1 sentence, a really high level snapshot of what makes you tick in that professional world. And when you're creating that headline, it's important that you think who you actually work for, what's your client group that you're servicing within your current role. It's also important to put in there what you actually do, and finally, how you actually do it. And by using those 3 words there, who, what, and how, will really help you create a really strong headline that draws people to actually look at your profile. Okay? And as I mentioned, once you've covered all of these key areas, there's additional functionality that you might see on LinkedIn. So you get a starred system on LinkedIn that shows how much of an active participant you are on LinkedIn. And once you've completed all of those sections on your profile, you'll see more posts, people will connect with you, and you'll start to be able to connect with additional people that you might not have done before. So that whole profile piece of work, it should take you a good hour or so to make sure you've got a really strong profile, but it's so important to make sure it's kept up to date, to make sure that it's really factual as well, and make sure it matches what you've actually got on your CV when you are sending that out to an employer or to a recruitment organisation. And I've spoke about my lovely photo on there. It's really important that you do have that really strong headshot. And if you look at these 4 examples of my photo, I've played around with the filters a little bit just to demonstrate the importance of having something really clear for an employer to see. So if you look at the top left one, I've blurred that out. You can't really see my face particularly well. The one to the right of that, I've put another filter on, and again, I don't think that's a great picture of me. The bottom left-hand corner, I've played with the lighting there, but again, that doesn't work. And then if we look at my final one, it's just a headshot There's nothing distracted in the background. There's no glare on the glasses that I wear, and it's just a really clear headshot. So make sure when you are putting that headshot on LinkedIn that it is very clear and it's a very professional headshot. And always remember what's behind you. What are you actually sharing with the LinkedIn world? Make sure you always double check what's behind you to make sure it's a professional profile and it shows your photo, but it doesn't show the house that you're sitting in, photos of your loved ones around you. So make sure it's really clear and it's just a headshot of you. And one really great feature that's been introduced into LinkedIn over the last sort of 6 to 8 months is you can actually put a frame around your photo saying that you're looking for work. So if you look at the photo that's just appeared on the screen there, I've got hashtag open to work. And that is really important because a recruiter can type in that search box we looked at, hashtag open to work, and they can then see all of the individuals that have got that hashtag frame around their face. So it's really important that if you are using LinkedIn as a tool to job search, that you have that open to work banner around your picture. But bearing in mind with that, if you are looking for another job, but maybe your employer doesn't know that you're looking for another job, beware of that because your current employer will see that hashtag open to work banner around your face as well. So you need to decide when's the right time to actually put that banner around your face, okay? It takes a couple of clicks to do that, and I'm going to talk to you about how to do that as we move forward. So to finish off your profile, that headshot's really important. Make sure it's clear, make sure there's no sort of background noise there. And if you choose to do so, you can let people know you're looking for work by using the hashtag open to work around your face, okay? And the LinkedIn search box at the top I mentioned, it's really important to be able to use this correctly. And you can use that LinkedIn search box to search for contacts. So you might know the name of the person you want to connect with. You might know the company that you want to connect with and follow to see what's going on in their world. You can also search for certain groups as well. So for example, if you were to type in there hashtag open to work, you'll see some groups of individuals that are looking for work at the moment. You can search for different topics. So you might search in their CSCS card, for example. And hashtags are really important to use within your search as well. So the search box is not just for looking for people, it's looking for companies, different groups you can follow, different topics that kind of prompt a little bit of interest in yourself, and also hashtags as well. And as you can see, if you type hashtag followed by a name, a company, or a topic, that will bring up that search criteria. And then you've got an option to then follow that group. And that's really important when you are trying to be an active LinkedIn participant, that you're following as many different groups that interest you as possible. So in that search box, type hashtag, and then whatever you're searching for, it'll bring up a set of options, and then you can start following that. Quite similar to if you follow an individual on Facebook. And when you're actually posting on LinkedIn, you need to be using hashtags in your own posts as well. So imagine if you type in hashtag open to work and you start following that group of people, if you then type hashtag open to work in a post that you make yourself, that post is going to reach out to every single person that follows that hashtag. So it's really important that when you're being active on LinkedIn, that you use as many hashtags as you possibly can. So hashtag open to work, hashtag looking for new opportunities, hashtag job search. And you don't need to know the name of the hashtag you want to follow. You can use that search box to try and identify, are there any groups of individuals that you want to connect with and you want to follow? So just to wrap up that first little bit then, so some top tips from me with using LinkedIn effectively. Make sure your profile's complete. So as I mentioned there, the more complete your profile is, the more functionality will be released to you and the more things that you're able to view. On LinkedIn as well, you can ask previous colleagues or friends or training providers to write a recommendation about you. That's really great, and that adds a little bit of colour again if an employer is wanting to connect with you. So you can contact a previous colleague, ask them to write a recommendation. They'll come back with a short paragraph about how amazing you are, and that will appear on your LinkedIn page. And again, as a recruiter, as an employer, it's great to kind of see somebody else's opinion of you. So get as many recommendations as you possibly can. And there's a bit of a caveat with that. You can always double check that recommendation before you post it onto your LinkedIn page. But do try and get as many recommendations from a variety of sources that you possibly can. So it could be colleagues, it could be previous employers, it could be somebody that you've worked alongside with for a number of years. So try and get as many of those as you possibly can. Make sure you build your network as well. So make sure you don't just follow individuals, follow groups of people, okay? Follow companies, and make sure you are connecting with as many people as you possibly can. The more people you're connecting with, the more information you're going to receive as a job seeker, and the more opportunities that are going to be available to you if you build your own personal network. Make sure you join relevant groups as well. So as I mentioned, hashtag open to work, you can follow that group and you can post within that group's pages as well. And the more people that know you're looking for work or looking for a new opportunity, the better really. So you're going to have more people in your corner supporting you back to work as well. And another key tip is use LinkedIn regularly. So a lot of people ask me this question: how frequently should I be using social media? I think as often as you possibly can, but as a minimum, when I'm doing some work on LinkedIn, I always check it in the morning, I check it about lunchtime, and I check it at the end of the day. Because the world of work and the way we're working at the moment is very fast paced. So it's really important that you're not missing out on any opportunities or any information on LinkedIn. Let recruiters know you're looking for work, so make sure you apply that open to work frame around your face if you want to do so, and that will just show as many people as possible that you're actively seeking work and you're available. But make sure before you put that frame around your profile picture, make sure your profile is fully completed and you are completely happy with that. If you're not sure if your profile's complete, myself or another member of our team can do a review for you just to check that you're not missing any of those key parts on LinkedIn. And finally, make sure you keep your details up to date. So make sure you are keeping current qualifications, you're putting them on there, but make sure your contact details are up to date as well on LinkedIn. So those are some top tips to get the best out of LinkedIn. And the last bit is be active and not passive. And what I mean by that is a passive participant might just put the thumbs up next to a couple of posts now and again, but the more you're posting, the more you're connecting with people, the more active you're being on LinkedIn. And as I mentioned, the more opportunities and the more bits of information that will become available. So be active, not passive. So don't be that person that just sits and reads a few profiles now and again. Interact with people on LinkedIn, connect with them, and post regularly yourself as well. So the next one, Twitter. Twitter is the next social media platform that you might use or you might not use. And as I mentioned, when it comes to Twitter, the posts that you make aren't as long as they might be on LinkedIn, for example. So there is a caveat there that when you make a post on Twitter, you've only got 140 characters to do that. So it needs to be really short and really punchy to get across to those audiences. So you can send out brief messages to large audiences known as tweets. And it's a great way, again, of finding jobs that aren't advertised through standard channels. So again, you can research companies on there, you can network with individuals and with groups, and you can keep up to date with labour market trends. So it's another tool in your toolkit really to support you back to work. And some top tips on Twitter. Create a really strong profile, quite similar to LinkedIn. So I started off talking about LinkedIn because that's probably the most involved. It's setting up your profile. So if you can do your LinkedIn one, then you're going to be amazing at setting up your Twitter profile. So make sure you've got a strong profile. Make sure you've got a great headshot. Make sure you've got information about your employment history and your educational history on there, for example. And include your Twitter handle on your CV so employers can find out about you as well. So if you right click on your profile, you'll be able to find your Twitter handle, which will just be a little code that links directly to you. So it's great if you would include that in the top section of your CV, so an employer can quickly click on that Twitter handle and find out a little bit more about you. But with that, you need to remember the quality of the information that you are liking and posting on Twitter needs to be really professional. Because if you put your Twitter handle on there, you're giving that employer permission to view all of your tweets. So make sure that it is professional and make sure you're posting in those professional areas. Be mindful what you follow as well. So as I mentioned, using that Twitter handle is great. It shows an employer a different side to you, but again, they'll see you posting nights out with friends on the drink. They'll see all of the different things that you're doing outside of work. So just be mindful of that. If you're inviting them in to look at your Twitter profile, be mindful what you follow and what you post. And ensure everything you portray everything that you share will portray you in a really positive light. And again, that professional headshot's really important just to get yourself noticed and make sure the employer can kind of put a face to a name. So I think that's really important. And use hashtags to follow companies and share posts, quite similar to how you would with LinkedIn. So, with Twitter, the key difference is what you actually post is only 140 characters. So you need to be quite sharp, quite short, and quite snappy with the posts that you're putting on there. Okay. And as I said, those hashtags work exactly the same way as they did on LinkedIn. So if you are posting, make sure you put hashtags in there to reach a greater audience. So hashtag open to work, hashtag job search, for example. Okay. And then the last two, so Facebook and Instagram, I've kind of married these two up together because they're owned by the same organisation. So Facebook, as I mentioned earlier, is owned by Facebook Incorporated. And we're usually quite familiar with that. So we can add friends, send them messages, update profiles to notify friends of things that we're up to, and you can join groups on Facebook as well. And you can do exactly the same on Instagram, but the key difference there is Instagram is primarily photos and video sharing. So what you'll see on Instagram is a lot of people tell stories by using videos or tell stories using pictures. So that's the key difference between Instagram and Facebook, is the amount of videos and pictures that you will share. And what I noticed on Facebook quite recently is there's now a job search function built into Facebook itself. So if you just look at the bottom of the screen where I've circled in red, you'll see a little briefcase there. And you can actually use Facebook to search for work as well. And if you look along the top, you've got a couple of options there. You've got manage, you've got create job, you've got you as well. So what you can do in those sections there is you can create a really strong profile like you did on LinkedIn. You can manage the notifications that you receive. So the example there, I just put a simple search in for jobs in Wallsend, about 11 kilometres, give or take. And you will see all of the jobs that appear on Facebook. And what you'll find with the jobs that you see on Facebook is there's usually quite a quick turnaround with when they advertise the job to when they want to close the job. So that's why checking Facebook and checking all social media platforms, you need to be doing it on a regular basis throughout the day to make sure you don't miss things. Okay. And again, with that Facebook, similar messages that I've given you so far is make sure your profile's complete, build your network again. So follow companies, follow interests that you've got, follow individuals. Make sure you're joining those groups and you're an active participant in there, and use it regularly, because what I wouldn't want you to do is check in the morning and say a fabulous job for you or a training opportunity, and then that's gone by lunchtime. So it's really important that you're on Facebook on a regular basis, just checking in a couple of minutes, every couple of hours, check in to see what's going on there. And again, let recruiters know you're looking for work as well. So there are frames in Facebook that you can put around your image again, but you can also put a bit of a tagline on Facebook as well to say that you're actively looking for work. And finally, keep your details up to date and be that active participant again, not just that passive person who looks at people's profiles and looks at information without actually doing anything with it. Make sure you're active, make sure you're liking, make sure you're sharing posts on Facebook. Okay? And overall, we've talked about a couple of those different platforms throughout the last half an hour or so. There's some key tips that you can use for all of them. So make sure you're creating posts yourself. So make sure you're talking about things that you're passionate about. Make sure you are talking about professional things. And that's one way of being an active participant as opposed to a passive one. Make sure you're sharing stuff as well, and make sure you're tagging individuals and groups into things that you share. Make sure you follow individuals as well, and you can use the hashtag or the @ symbol to follow people. And it just depends on which social media platform you're on, but make sure you're following individuals and groups. Make sure you're writing comments as well. So, liking and sharing is absolutely great, but what do you think about that post? What's your thoughts behind that post? So make sure you're commenting regularly as well, and review on a daily basis. So those are the 5 key tips when we think about any social media platform. If you follow those 5 key things, it's going to take you from a passive participant to an active one. So what I've got for you now, because that's me talking at you for the last half hour, I've just got a really short video that just sums up everything that we've spoken about. If you want me to send this video to you after this briefing, I'm more than happy to do so. Just drop a comment in the box. Okay, so this short video just sums up everything we've spoken about, just to make sure I'm reinforcing that message with you about the importance of social media. So hopefully that video was useful, just to kind of sum up some of the key areas that we've spoken about this morning. And what we've got now is I've got a bit of time blocked out just to answer any questions that anybody has about anything we've spoken about or anything else relating to social media. So if you have got a question, if you add a comment to this post, and then I'll go through those questions with you. But during this briefing, I've received a couple of questions through. So whilst you send some other questions through, I'll actually answer a few of these ones for you now. So the first question that I've got is from Jill. So thanks for joining this morning, Jill. How often should I check social media? So as I mentioned, the world of work is really quite fast paced at the moment. So it's important that you're checking social media on a regular basis. So what I do personally, I check it first thing in the morning, I check it at lunchtime, and I check it at the end of the day as well. And by checking it, I don't spend hours on there. I just spend a couple of minutes just reviewing some of the posts that have been on there to make sure I'm completely up to date. So check social media as regularly as you can, but I think 3 times a day would be great. The next questions come from Alan, and that's, how do I add hashtag open to work frame around my profile on LinkedIn? So what I'll do is I'll share a small video in the comments box to show you how to do that. But in the profile section that we looked at the top of the screen, there's a button that says open to. And if you click on open to, you've got 2 options. One of them is to let recruiters know that you're looking for work. And the next one is just to update your profile. So if you're wanting to let people know you're looking for work, you click on finding a new job. And then what you can do from there is decide on your own privacy settings. So who do you want to see your profile? Who do you want to see your comments? And within there, you can actually add the frame around your picture. And you can view the frame before it goes live to check that you're happy with it. The next questions come from Sarah. So how do recruiters find you on social media? So we've spent a bit of time this morning talking about groups and hashtags. So recruiters can find you via a hashtag on social media. So if you're using things like hashtag open to work, hashtag looking for work, recruiters can type that in the search and see everybody who has used that hashtag in their own profile. So hashtags and also in groups that you follow, recruiters can also find you in there. The next question from Debbie is there a good time to use social media? I presume that question is there a good time of the day? So I think with that one, it depends on the industry that you are wanting to get into. So is there a good time to use social media? It does depend on that industry, but really think about the industry and decide when is a particular time of the day that industry might be a little bit quieter. And that's when you might see posts and notifications coming through from that industry. But what you can do on any of the social media is you can check what time of day they actually post and what day of the week they usually post. You can see that information yourself. And then that's a bit of a memory jog for you to know that you go on at a Friday at 10 o'clock to check those posts. The next question from James is, should I add my CV to LinkedIn? So if you were asking that question about Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, I'd probably say no. It's not common practice to have your CV on those platforms, but it's starting to become more and more common practice on LinkedIn. But one thing I'd mention is make sure your CV is up to date, make sure everything's on there, and make sure you don't post any information that you don't want everybody in the world to see. So if you have your CV on LinkedIn, I think it's important that you remove your address, for example, so you don't want everybody in the world actually seeing your address. But yes, you can actually put your CV in your profile section on LinkedIn. But remember, everybody in the world can see that. So make sure you eliminate any personal information you don't want them to see. The next question that's come through from Mark is, do employers check up on me on social media? Yeah, the answer to that question is, yeah, they can do. And when the employer's checking up on you, I think what they're looking for is putting a face to a name, I think is the first thing. So it's difficult for an employer when they just get a CV and they can't kind of imagine what you're like as a person. So they might actually look for your picture to put a face to a name so they know who's going to come in for interview. But also they want to check that what you're publicising on social media is exactly the same as what's written on your CV. So make sure when you are working out your profile on any social media platform that it correlates to your CV, because they're going to be looking for any gaps on your CV that you might not have covered in social media and vice versa. And the last question from Lynn, what are your social media top tips? So key things for me is make sure everything's up to date and make sure you check your profiles on a regular basis. Make sure you post regularly as well. So don't just be that passive person that just looks at people's accounts and looks at what they're doing. Actively engage with that person, make posts, share videos yourself, and comment on anything that's on there. And seek recommendations as well. I think that's particularly important for the more professional side, such as LinkedIn. Make sure you're seeking those recommendations from individuals as well. So that's the end of the questions that I had. I'm just going to check to see if any other questions came through while I was broadcasting, but there doesn't seem to be any. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the broadcast now. And what I'll do is the questions that were asked, I'm going to put the answers on this feed as well, so you can go back and you can actually check them yourself at your leisure and kind of have them in front of you when you're working on your profile yourself. And finally, the Back to Work service as part of North Tyneside Council is here to support people in North Tyneside back into work. And what we can do is, if you want somebody to do a review of your social media, to check you've got everything in place, to check it's sound and it's really professional, I'm more than happy to do that. But not just a social media review, anything to do with your job search. If you want any advice, any guidance or any support to help you back to work, please give us a call or please drop us an email. I'm more than happy to help you. And this is the Back to Work team. So we've got Aaron, we've got myself, we've got Alan and we've got Jill. And we're always here Monday to Friday to answer any questions that you've got. So please reach out to us and please ask questions, and we're always here to support you. Okay, good luck in your job search, everyone.